Every city in America is haunted, not by ghosts, but by the things we decided we didn't need anymore. You know, we're very good at tearing things down before we understand what they're actually doing for us. Sometimes we don't even notice it happening. We just drive past the empty space long enough, eventually it stops feeling strange. I want to take you to a crime scene. Probably driven past places like this 1,000 times.
Nirvana.
But not long ago, this patch of land was the center of the universe for a lot of people. There are places we don't notice until they're gone. Buildings that quietly held entire cultures together for decades. The small music venue was one of those places. Not the stadium, not the festival, the room. The kind of room where the ceiling was too low, the sound was too loud, and the crowd was right in your face. These weren't places bands played to get famous. They played there to get good. This was the middle ground, the place where bands learned how to exist in public. You played them for friction, for heat, for noise, for failure, for pressure. For about 30 years, a small venue, that 500 to 1,000 seat room, was one of the most important institutions in American culture. It wasn't special to one city, every town had one. Chicago had the Metro, New York had CBGB, Minneapolis had First Avenue, Athens had 40 Watt, St. Louis had Mississippi Nights. That room sat right on the river, and for nearly 30 years it was a crossroads. Bands passed through, some broke, some didn't. They all played that room.
The Afghan Wigs, Cypress Hill, and many, many more.
And this is what's left. A place to park your Toyota.
The end of Mississippi Nights was caused by the casino, is the short answer. The long answer was they had a 2-tier development and plan down there. They were gonna turn the area Mississippi Nights was into retail space and condominiums and that kind of thing, and it just fell apart, so it stayed a parking lot.
We didn't just lose rooms. We let corporations run live music, and we let real estate decide what really mattered.
Make some noise, St. Louis!
This isn't a story about whether Mississippi Nights was great. It really wasn't that great on its own. It was average. It was normal. It was the kind of place you took for granted and expected always to be there.
I always tell people I have a love-hate relationship with the venue just because I loved our fans and I loved the energy in there. It just was like 120 degrees. Like when we played, it was hot.
And most people experience these places as fans, not as participants in the system that made them work, which is fine. That's what fans do. But it also means a lot of people can't tell you what they're actually looking at when they say they miss it.
Well, it's a small venue, which I think that's where you miss a lot of the, that's where rock and roll is in a small venue.
Memory preserves moments. Function preserves futures. Small venues weren't just places where music happened, they were training grounds.
We all together played over 100 shows at Mississippi Nights. It's important for bands to play hundreds and hundreds of shows, and it was nice to, while we were playing smaller venues even, to kind of build our craft, it was nice to apply that to a place like Mississippi Nights, and they were our crowd. So it's like, okay, here's how we start working the next levels.
That level mattered, not the underground myth, not the mainstream machine, the middle.
So it's like, okay, here's how we start working the next levels.
Here's what the middle looked like in practice. You start at Bernard's Pub as part of a 4-band bill playing for 50 people. Then you might play Turner's Hall, a crumbling building in a bad neighborhood where 100 people feels like a huge crowd. That's stage time. That's reps. Maybe you get a nice write-up in a zine or something nobody's ever heard of. Then you get to play Cicero's, a more professional room with a decent sound system and an audio tech who hates you and everything else about his life. The buzz from that show gets you invited to open for a touring act at Mississippi Nights. 1,000 people.
If you did well at Mississippi Nights, you're able to move up to the American Theater or maybe Riverport or something like that.
Opening for
Sure.
touring bands and that and
Yeah.
whatnot.
This wasn't random. That was the ladder. And each rung taught you something different. At Bernard's Pub, you learned if people would show up at all. At Turner's, you learned if you could fill an uncomfortable room. At Cicero's, you learned if you were ready for a bigger venue. At Mississippi Nights, you learned if you could work a crowd that was there to see somebody else. Mississippi Nights didn't just let you practice, it certified you.
They're the stepping stone, like that next, right before you get to the next level, which is bigger theaters, or if you blow up, playing arenas and stuff. Well, it's important for that to have that level before you go to the next level.
The room proved you could do it. And once you could do it there, you could take it anywhere because every city had its own version of that room. It was part of an ecosystem. You had the local alt weekly with the entertainment strip where you'd see what was happening that week. You had the local public access station filming shows and putting them on cable. You had other bands all playing the same rooms, and that's infrastructure.
We would play there, make a bunch of money, and then we'd go tour. That was our way of kind of making some money to go on the road.
And when one piece disappears, the whole thing starts to wobble. You can still have venues, but without the ecosystem, without the other bands, the venue, the local media, the fans, without the frequency, you don't have what makes the system work.
When bands came through, a lot of local bands were able to open up for them. At some point, that kind of changed.
Not because there aren't any local bands that could, but because some asshole with the spreadsheet decided it wasn't worth the risk. The risk didn't disappear. It just got shifted. The promoter no longer takes the risk and the band starts eating it instead. And because the world has changed, new bands coming up, they don't even know what they missed. They're getting cut out of a system that gave them a path up the ladder. It's just not there anymore. You can't quantify a place where musicians learn to scale on a tax form. So when a spreadsheet asks, what does this building do? The answer is host concerts, which is true, but it's like saying a hospital stores sick people. The culture still mattered. The role just stopped making sense on paper, which is how most important things die, by the way. Not because they stop working, but because they can't explain themselves to the people who've never needed them. St. Louis still has venues, probably more venues than it had in 1995, but it's missing that 1,000-seat room.
We were only an 800 to 1,000 person club, so there's really no in-between club like that anymore. So musically, from a fan standpoint, I think we're gonna be missing a lot of bands that were in this capacity bracket, I guess, or whatever you want to say. That's a shame because we're not going to be seeing the bands coming up, when they're really gaining popularity. Yeah, for me, I can't even describe what it means to be losing Mississippi Nights.
These ghosts are everywhere, not because we didn't care, but because we didn't recognize what was working until it was gone. The next version of this won't look the same. It won't sound the same. It might not even be music, but it'll be just as easy to miss because we're very good at seeing things and not understanding what we're looking at. I don't believe the answer is to freeze time or rebuild the past exactly as it was. Things have to change, they always do. The question is how they change and who gets to decide. Culture doesn't disappear because of progress. It disappears because we stop choosing what to carry with us. I mean, that's the good news. It's our choice. The bad news is we have to be able to understand the choice before it becomes another ghost that shapes everything without anyone remembering it was ever there. Hey, thank you so much for watching. This is a big pivot for this channel, and this is the first video out of the gate for that, so I really appreciate your time in watching this. If you like this content, please subscribe. I want to thank my Patreon supporters who have come in early and supported me. That's super cool. I got more support than I expected right off the bat, and if you want to support me, the Patreon link will be in the description. I want to thank Steve Ewing and Donald Williams. Steve Ewing from The Urge and Donald Williams from Sinister Dane for sharing their thoughts for this piece. And I especially want to thank Garrett and Stacy Enlow, who wrote this amazing book about Mississippi Nights. And if you hung out at Mississippi Nights, you should probably check this out. It's like the yearbook nobody signed. Let me know in the comments if you have a music venue that's not around anymore that you miss dearly. I think everybody of a certain age probably does. And thanks again so much. And hopefully I'll be doing, not hopefully, I will be doing one of these once a month. And so I hope you subscribe and stick around and check that out. Thanks again.